The photo frame hit the floor before the words did. Glass shattered, tiny pieces skidding across the tiles, catching the light like cruel little stars. It was my wedding photo, my husband's young, smiling face, my own eyes full of hope, and then, into the trash, by my daughter-in-law's hand, while my son watched. "Ami," my son said, jaw tight, eyes refusing to meet mine, "please don't make this harder. This isn't your house anymore. We've decided it's better if you leave." I froze. My heart did something strange in my chest. Not a crack, more like a slow, dull tearing. Before I go on, if you care about stories like mine, about mothers, sacrifices, and what happens when love is taken for granted, please like this video and subscribe. It means more to me than you know. Sometimes the only strength we have is knowing someone is listening. I looked at my son, the same boy who used to sleep on my arm until it went numb, the same boy who once cried when I left him at school. "Armin," I whispered, "Beta, where will I go?" He winced at the word Beta, like it hurt him now. Behind him, Aisha, my daughter-in-law, stood with her arms folded, perfume sharp in the air, lips pressed thin with impatience. "We've talked about this already," she said. Her voice was sugar over steel. "You'll be more comfortable at the old age home. They have nurses there, activities, people your own age." People your own age. As if I was a piece of furniture that no longer matched the decor. My suitcase was by the door, not the big one with the good wheels, the small, faded blue one I used when I visited my sister years ago. Someone had already packed it for me, folded my clothes, chosen which shawl I got to keep. I hadn't done it. They had. My old slippers scratched quietly against the tiles as I walked to the door. I didn't remember moving. My hands were shaking, but I kept them behind my back so they wouldn't see. The TV was on in the background, some loud comedy show, people laughing in a language that suddenly felt foreign to me. In the kitchen, the scent of fried onions clung to the air, clashing with the coldness in my son's eyes. At the threshold, I turned around. Armin stood in the hallway, looking smaller than I remembered, and yet somehow bigger, like a stranger wearing my son's face. Aisha had her hand on his arm, her nails perfectly painted, digging in just slightly, like a reminder. "I built this house," I said, "brick by brick, rupee by rupee. Even if the papers don't say my name, these walls know my prayers." Aisha rolled her eyes. "Please, Auntie, let's not be dramatic." "Auntie. Not Ami, not Amma, just Auntie." Armin opened his mouth. I thought for one fragile second he would stop all this madness, tell me it was a misunderstanding, run to me like he did when he was 5 and the neighbor dog barked too loudly. Instead, he said, "The cab is waiting, Ami. Don't cause a scene." Don't cause a scene. As if I hadn't spent my whole life quietly swallowing scenes so he wouldn't be embarrassed. I stepped out into the humid night. The air smelled of rain and car smoke and something else, something like endings. My old dupatta clung to my arms. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A motorcycle roared past, its headlight briefly illuminating my wet eyes. The gate clicked shut behind me. The house, my house, stood tall and bright. The home I had dreamed into existence now stared at me like it didn't recognize me. My suitcase handle felt rough in my hand. My legs felt hollow. My heart? I wasn't sure if it was still inside my chest or lying in that dustbin with the broken photograph. I thought that night was my humiliation. I had no idea it was only the beginning. People think betrayal happens in one moment, one slap, one word, one door that closes. They don't see how it's built, slowly, like a house, brick by brick, tiny compromises, tiny silences, laid on top of each other until you're trapped inside. I still remember the first brick. Arman was born on a rainy Thursday. The hospital room smelled of Dettol and boiled milk. My husband, Rahim, held him with both hands like he was made of glass. I still see the way his little mouth searched the air, the way his fingers wrapped around mine and stayed there as if to say, "Don't you dare let go." I didn't. not for years. When Rahim died in that factory accident, Arman was only 8. One phone call and suddenly everything was heavier. The ceiling fan's slow circles, the rent notice on the table, my own breath in my chest. I worked wherever I could, sewing in the mornings, cooking for neighbors in the afternoons, cleaning offices at night. My feet cracked, my back screamed, but each time my body wanted to give up, I pictured Arman's school uniform, his notebooks, his future. Just a few more years, I would whisper to myself, scrubbing someone else's bathroom, just until he stands on his own feet. Sometimes, late at night, I'd sit by the window with a cup of lukewarm tea between my palms, listening to the distant honking outside, watching the shadows of people passing by. I'd think, will he ever understand? Will he ever know what I'm giving up? Then I'd hear his soft snoring from the thin mattress on the floor, and my heart would answer for me. It doesn't matter. A mother doesn't bargain. When he got into university, I cried so hard the edges of my dupatta stayed wet all day. I sold my gold bangles, Rahim's wedding gift, and we paid his admission fee. The house felt emptier after he left, but full of something else. Hope. It hummed in the walls. We moved from that narrow rented lane to a slightly better one. Then, when Arman started earning, things changed quickly. New furniture, a fridge that actually worked. The day we stood on the dusty plot where the house now stands, my chest filled so much I thought it might burst. "Ami, one day this will be our house," Arman said, his shoes covered in mud. "No more landlords." I remember touching the bare earth, feeling the grit under my fingers. "Our house," I repeated, "Inshallah." The papers, of course, went in his name. "It's easier," the property agent said. "He has the job, the bank will listen to him." I signed where they told me to sign, my heart not caring about signatures. What is paper in front of a child's promise? Then Aisha arrived. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Smart, too. Educated, from a better family, always smelling like expensive perfume. The first time she visited, she touched my feet, smiled up at me with perfect teeth, and called me Ummi so sweetly that my eyes filled on the spot. This girl will love my son, I thought. Maybe she will even love me. The wedding was a blur of colors and noise and borrowed jewelry, henna drying on hands, laughter echoing in the courtyard. For the first time in years, I danced. Clumsy, old woman dancing, but still, my feet moved. My heart believed. The first crack came quietly. "Why does Ami have to live with us?" I heard one night, her whisper slipping under my bedroom door like smoke. My heart pounding so loudly I thought it might reveal me. Arman's answer was a low murmur. I couldn't catch every word, but I heard enough. "She raised me alone. How can I send her away? Just give her time." I clung to those words like a drowning woman clings to driftwood. But driftwood still floats away with the tide. The tide, in my case, was slow, polite, smiling. I did not recognize it then, but I would. And the first time I saw Aisha's true face, I realized my sacrifices were only the opening chapter. The first time Aisha raised her voice at me, it wasn't about something important. That's how these things begin, you know? Not with a storm, with a drip. It was a Sunday morning. The house was filled with the smell of fried parathas and chai. The TV played some old movie in the background. Sunlight spilled through the curtains, dust motes dancing lazily in the air. My grandson, little Saad, sat at the table swinging his legs, his hair sticking up in all directions. I adored that child in a way I can't explain. It was like loving Arman twice. "Dadu, more sugar," he said, pushing his glass of milk towards me. "Just a little, huh?" I smiled, opening the sugar jar. "Too much and your teeth will run away." We were laughing when Aisha walked in. "Saad, how many times have I told you, no sugar in your milk?" The spoon froze in my hand. A small mound of sugar hovered over the glass, trembling. I began. "I'm talking to my son," she cut in sharply, not even looking at me. "Go to your room, Saad." His face fell. He slid off the chair, eyes shiny, and shuffled away without a word. The sound of his tiny footsteps on the steps echoed louder than any shouting. I stood there, spoon in mid-air, feeling suddenly foolish, like a child caught stealing sweets. "Aisha beta," I said softly, "it was just one spoon. He doesn't like the taste otherwise." She turned then, slowly, and for the first time I saw it. The annoyance, the thinly veiled contempt. "Auntie," she said, the word landing like a slap, "we're trying to raise him differently. No old-fashioned habits, no spoiling. You had your time with Arman. Let me handle my own child." "We're trying to raise him differently. You had your time." I felt the words settle on my skin, heavy and sticky. I wanted to defend myself, to say, "I kept your husband alive on one roti and half a bottle of milk. I think I know something about children." But the words turned to stones in my throat. She plucked the spoon from my hand, tapped the sugar back into the jar with careful, clipped motions, then rinsed the spoon under the tap like it had touched something dirty. I stood there, hands empty, listening to the water run. That was the first humiliation. The first time I heard, "You had your time," followed by the unspoken, "Now move aside." After that, the drips came faster. "Auntie, please don't fold the clothes. You do it the old way, they get creased." "Auntie, don't touch the washing machine, you'll break it." "Auntie, why are you still awake? The TV bill is going up." Each sentence small by itself. Together, they became a net. Arman would come home tired, tie off, shoulders slumped, and Aisha's mouth would pour stories into his ears before he'd even taken his shoes off. "Your mother did this. Your mother said that. I can't live like this, Arman." Sometimes I walked past their room and heard my own name like a stain on their conversation. One evening, I came out of my room to find the living room rearranged. My old wooden rocking chair, the one Rahim bought from the flea market after Arman was born, was missing. "Where is my chair?" I asked. "Oh," Aisha said casually, scrolling on her phone, "it was ruining the aesthetic. The junk man took it." Junk man. 40 years of memories sold for a few coins and the word junk. My fingers tingled. For a moment, I thought I might fall. Arman looked up from his laptop, glanced between us, and then, as always, chose silence. That silence hurt more than any insult, because when your child says nothing, it feels louder than screaming. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, the room too quiet, my hands twisting the edge of my shawl. I stared at the bare corner where my rocking chair used to be, and asked myself a question I had never dared think before. Did I raise a son or a stranger? I thought that was my lowest point. Then came the day I heard them whisper about sending me away, and what I heard on the other side of that bedroom door shattered something I didn't know could still break.
It was raining the night I heard my own eviction being planned. Not the loud, dramatic kind of rain that beats against the roof. No, this was a soft, steady tapping like fingers on glass. The house felt wrapped in a grey blanket. I was in my room, folding my few remaining saris with slow, careful hands. The cupboard smelled faintly of naphthalene balls in sandalwood soap. Saad's laughter drifted from the living room, followed by the hum of the cartoon channel. Then, Aisha's voice, low, sharp, leaking through the crack under my door. "I can't live like this anymore, Arman. I feel like a guest in my own house." My hands paused mid-fold. "You're not a guest," Arman said. His voice was tired, frayed. "This is your house too." "Is it?" she shot back. "Because it doesn't feel like it. Your mother is everywhere. Her old things, her old habits, her old ways. I am suffocating, Arman, suffocating." The word hung in the air. I stared at the sari in my hands, the faded pink one I wore at his school prize giving day, the one he once said made me look like a rose. Now it looked like evidence. "I've given her years," Aisha continued. "I've adjusted, I've kept quiet, but she meddles in everything. She feeds Saad things I don't approve of. She questions how we spend money. She still behaves like this house belongs to her." "Because it does," a small voice inside me whispered. "At least a little." I silenced it. Arman sighed. The sofa creaked as he sat down, or maybe stood up. After so many years, the furniture in that house spoke its own language to me. "So what do you want me to do?" he asked. Aisha's answer came like a slap through the wood. "Send her to an old age home, or to your uncle's house, anywhere. I want a life where I'm not being watched and judged and corrected by someone who doesn't understand us." Old age home. The sari slipped from my hands. "She's my mother," Arman said. The words were there, but the strength was missing. "She raised you, yes, and now you are raising an entire family. You have responsibilities. You can't keep being a little boy clinging to his mother's pallu. Grow up, Arman." Silence. Even the rain seemed to pause. Then a softer voice, his. "If we find a good place, with proper care, not like those horror stories, just somewhere she can be with people her age, maybe she'll even be happier." Happier! I pressed my hand over my mouth to stop the sound that wanted to escape. I didn't trust it. It felt too close to a wounded animal. Somewhere inside my ribs, something old and stubborn sat up. "Is this what I raised you for? To decide my happiness like a stranger choosing a charity?" My eyes burned. I didn't hear the rest of the conversation. My blood was rushing too loudly in my ears. My gaze drifted to the bottom shelf of my cupboard, where an old black file sat covered in dust. People think old women forget things. We don't. We just stop talking about them. That file contained everything I had never once used as a weapon. The receipts from the days I paid the building contractor in cash, standing in the hot sun while my dupatta soaked with sweat. The agreement where I loaned Arman my widow pension to cover the final payment. The handwritten note he gave me then. "Ammi, one day this house will be yours again, I promise." I picked up the file with trembling hands. The paper felt brittle, like it might crumble under the weight of what it carried. A part of me wanted to march into the living room, drop it on the coffee table, and shout the truth until the walls shook. "This is my house. I sacrificed my youth, my body, my comfort. I sold my gold. I ate half so you could eat full. How dare you decide where I will sleep?" Instead, I closed the cupboard slowly. I am not that kind of woman, or at least I wasn't then. I crawled into bed that night with the rain still tapping on the window, my pillow damp from silent tears, one thought circling in my mind like a restless bird. If I don't protect myself now, no one will. I thought the file would only be a reminder. I didn't know it was about to become my lifeline. And I had no idea that even darker secrets than mine lay hidden in that house.
Karma doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it slips into your life as a small vibration on a table. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Aisha had gone out to meet her friends. Brunch, she called it, as if adding foreign words could make ordinary food more special. Arman was at work. Saad was at school. The house was strangely quiet. No cartoon noises, no clatter in the kitchen, no perfume cloud trailing in the hallway. Just me, the ticking clock, and a lukewarm cup of tea in my hand. I was dusting the shelf near the TV when Aisha's phone lit up on the coffee table. The screen glowed with a notification banner. I swear to you, I did not mean to snoop. Old eyes are still eyes. They can't help but read what is put in front of them. Final notice, loan installment overdue, immediate action required. My hand paused over a photo frame. Dust floated in the air between us, suspended. A second notification followed. Reminder, gold loan interest due tomorrow. Gold loan? My heart gave a slow, careful beat. My gaze slipped to her jewelry boxes in the showcase, full, glittering, untouched. The good sets still there. So whose gold? The phone vibrated again. This time a name flashed. Mr. Khan, bank manager. Before I knew what I was doing, I had picked up the phone. My thumb hesitated over the screen, my conscience shouting, "This isn't right. This isn't you."
But another voice, quieter, older, more tired, whispered back, "And were they right when they packed your suitcase?" The lock screen opened with facial recognition, a blessing or a curse, I still don't know. Her home screen was full of shopping apps, photo filters, and one folder called Finance. I tapped it. Bank apps, loan apps, so many numbers. My fingers were clumsy, but not useless. I opened the message thread with the bank manager. My eyes moved slowly, each line like a stone being placed on my chest. "Madam, we cannot extend the due date any longer. You assured us your husband would clear the amount. If the next installment is missed, we will be forced to initiate action against the property used as collateral." Property. Collateral? My stomach clenched. I scrolled up. There it was. Plain, cold, cruel. House. Our address. Primary security for loan. The walls around me blurred. For a moment, I had to sit down. The sofa sank under my weight, its cushion breathing out the trapped scent of Aisha's perfume. She had mortgaged the house I bled for, the house I bent my spine to build. Given as security for what? There were transaction details, boutique names, vacation bookings, online purchases with ridiculous amounts, money flowing out like water from a broken tap. Does Armand know? I wondered. Is he part of this? My heart said no. My mind, now awake in a new way, whispered, "And you don't actually know your son anymore." I found screenshots of forged signatures, the loops of Armand's name, but slightly wrong. The slant, the pressure. You raise a child, you learn every small thing about them, how they eat, how they sleep, how they sign their name. This was close, but not right, like someone pretending to know him. My hands began to shake. I placed the phone back exactly where I'd found it, the tea in my other hand now cold and forgotten. For a long time, I just sat there and listened, to the clock, to my own pulse, to the quiet breathing of a house that was keeping too many secrets. That evening, when Armand came home, his shoulders looked heavier. He pressed his fingers to his temples while Aisha chirped at him about some sale, some friend, some dinner plan. He nodded at all the right places, but his eyes looked distant. "Is it the loans?" I wanted to ask. "Do you even know?" Instead, I said, "Veda, you look tired. Should I make you some tea?" He smiled, faintly, the smile of a man standing on a sinking ship, still pretending the water isn't rising. "It's okay, Ami, I'm fine." He wasn't. None of us were. That night, I opened my old black file again. This time, I didn't just look at the papers. I arranged them, marked them, put sticky notes with dates and details the way I'd seen Saad do for his school projects. I was building something. Not a house this time, a case. I thought I was gathering proof to save my son from his wife. I didn't know I was also gathering proof against him. And the night they finally threw me out, those papers would become the only thing standing between me and the street.
You already know how that night ended. Me outside the gate, my suitcase in my hand, my heart in the dustbin. But you don't know how it began. It started with a stamp. Aisha called me to the living room that evening. Her voice was bright, too bright, like someone who'd already decided something. "Auntie, can you come here, please?" I wiped my hands on my apron and walked in. The coffee table was cleared. On it lay a stack of papers, a blue pen, and one of those round ink pads we used to see in government offices. Armand was standing by the window, back turned to us. His shoulders were stiff. "What is all this?" I asked, my eyes already scanning the pages. "Just some formalities," Aisha said sweetly. "For the old age home, they need consent forms, and we thought it's better to make things clear for everyone." My fingers grazed the first page. Relinquishment of rights. I may not be educated like them, but life has taught me how to read between lines. This says I have no claim on the house, I said, my voice coming out calmer than I felt. No right to live here, no right to decide anything. Aisha smiled. But Auntie, you always say this is Armand's house. We're just putting your words on paper. I looked at my son. He didn't turn. Armand, I said, one word, his name, the same name I once shouted across playgrounds, once whispered into feverish ears, once wrote shakily on school forms. He flinched. It was small, but I saw it. Ami, it's just to avoid future problems, he muttered. You know, after we're gone, for Saad, so there are no legal issues between relatives. Relatives? I repeated. I am your mother, not a distant relative. Silence pooled in the room. The ceiling fan hummed overhead, pushing around the thick air. Aisha picked up the pen. Please, Auntie, don't be emotional. Be practical. You'll be more comfortable where we're sending you. They have doctors, nurses. We can visit. We can visit. Like I was a tourist attraction. I thought of the loans, the forged signatures, the house mortgaged without my knowledge. I thought of the black file hidden in my cupboard. My tears dried up all at once. Bring me my glasses, I said. Aisha looked relieved, mistaking my calm for surrender. Of course, she said, hurrying away. Armand finally turned. Our eyes met. For a moment, I saw my little boy behind the tired man, the boy who once clung to my kurta so I wouldn't leave the room, the boy who once said, "When I grow up, I'll buy you a palace, Ami." This is not right, I whispered. You know it. His jaw tightened. His eyes slid away. He said nothing. That hurt more than any insult. Aisha returned with my glasses. I put them on slowly, the frame settling on the bridge of my nose, making everything sharper. I read every line. Then I lifted my head. No, I said. One syllable, soft, final. Aisha blinked. Excuse me? I will not sign this. I may be old, but I am not blind. You want this house free so the bank can take it, so you can borrow more? No. I may have let you take my chair, my things, my space, but you will not take the roof from over my grandson's head. Color drained from her face. What are you talking about? She snapped. You don't know anything about our finances. I know enough, I replied. I know you put this house as collateral. I know you took loans in Armand's name. I know the bank manager has been calling you all week. Her mouth opened and closed. Shock, fear, anger. Armand stared at me, eyes wide. Is this true? He asked her. The silence that followed was the loudest we'd ever had. That's between us, she hissed, and she saw my phone. She's invading our privacy now, Armand, do you see? This is what I mean. She's ruining everything. She turned on me then. You ungrateful old woman, after everything we've done for you. I laughed. It burst out of me, short and bitter. Everything you've done for me? I said. Who raised you from the dead when your marriage was on the rocks? Who watches your son when you're out? Who cooks, cleans, prays for this house? If I start counting, the night will end and my list won't. Something snapped then, not in me, in them. If you won't sign, then leave, today, right now. Her hand shot out, grabbed the small suitcase I kept under the sideboard for emergencies, and flung it on the couch. Armand didn't stop her. He stood there, eyes wet, mouth tight, hands useless. Armand, I said quietly, is this what you want too? He inhaled sharply. His voice came out hoarse. Maybe it's for the best, Ami. I felt that sentence more than I heard it. Maybe it's for the best. They packed my clothes without asking which ones I wanted, chose one shawl, one pair of shoes, a few photographs. They didn't see the tremor in my hands as I pressed my wedding photo to my chest. They didn't see the black file I quietly slid into the suitcase. When the cab driver honked outside, Aisha opened a door wide. Let's not make a scene, she said sweetly.
I didn't. I let them throw me out of my own house, but I did not walk out empty-handed. In my suitcase was everything they thought I'd forgotten, and outside that gate, as the cab engine hummed and the driver fiddled with the meter, my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in 20 years. What came next? I never expected.
Little brother. The name glowed on my phone screen like a small ghost from another life. I stared at it, the cab's plastic seat sticky under my palms, the driver muttering about traffic and time. Rain streaked the window, turning the streetlights into smudges of gold. I hadn't spoken to Rafi in over 2 decades. We fought after Rahim died, about money, about duty, about pride. He said he would help. I said I didn't need charity. Words were thrown like stones. Some hit harder than they should have. We never fully came back from that. "Are you going to answer, Baji?" the driver asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. My thumb hovered over the green icon. "Hello?" I said finally, my voice smaller than I intended. There was a breath on the other end. Then, "Api?" No one had called me that in a long time. Api, elder sister, the first title I ever held. "How did you know to call me?" I whispered. "I didn't," he said. "I just thought of you suddenly. I was going through some old papers, saw your handwriting. I felt, I don't know, guilty, so I dialed. Are you okay? You sound different." Something in my chest loosened. I could have lied. I could have said, "I'm fine," swallowed it like I had been swallowing everything for years. Instead, to my own surprise, I laughed, a shaky, wet laugh. "I'm in a taxi, with my suitcase, on my way to an old age home my son picked for me. Does that answer your question?" Silence, then a sharp inhale. "What?" Rafi's voice sharpened. "What are you talking about? Arman? The boy you worked yourself to the bone for?" "The same," I said softly. "Send me your location, right now, Api. Don't argue." The cab dropped me at the gate of the old age home first. Its paint peeled in flakes. A rusted board hung crooked, swinging slightly in the damp breeze. The security guard gave me a bored glance. "This is it," the driver said. "You want me to wait?" I looked at the building. The dim corridor light flickered, the smell of disinfectant already reaching me on the wind. "No," I began. My phone buzzed again. "I'm outside," Rafi said. I turned. A white car was pulling up behind the taxi, headlights slicing through the misty air. It stopped with a soft screech. The driver's door opened. There he was. Older, grayer, a little heavier around the middle, but the same crooked smile, the same worried forehead lines. "Api," he breathed, coming towards me. For a second, I saw him as a boy again, running after my dupatta on the street, crying when he scraped his knees, hiding behind me when Abba scolded him. We just stared at each other. Then I broke. I don't know who moved first, maybe both of us. Suddenly, his arms were around me, my face pressed to his shoulder, his shirt smelling of aftershave and something faintly medicinal, hospital air maybe. My tears soaked the cotton. "Easy, Api," he murmured. "I've got you. I should have had you years ago." The security guard watched us with mild curiosity. To him, we were just 2 old people hugging in the rain. To me, it felt like a piece of my life clicking back into place. He pulled back, wiping my cheeks clumsily with his thumbs. "Get in the car," he said. "You're not staying here." "But Arman," I began. "Arman can wait," he snapped, then softened. "You've waited for everyone your whole life. Let someone wait for you for once." In the car, the AC hummed gently. My damp shawl warmed slowly on my shoulders. Streetlights passed in a blur. "How did it come to this?" he asked quietly, eyes on the road. I opened my suitcase, pulled out the black file, and placed it on his lap. "That's how," I said. He flipped it open at a red light.
His eyes moved quickly. He had always been a fast reader. Receipts, agreements, notes. His jaw clenched. You put the down payment. You paid half the installments, and you never told anyone? What was there to tell? I replied. It was for my son. He flicked to the back where I'd tucked the copied bank messages, notes about the mortgage I'd scribbled in shaky handwriting. Do you know what this means? He asked slowly. It means I am about to be homeless, and my grandson might be too. He shook his head. It means we have leverage. Appy, you may have raised a son who forgot who you are, but you also raised a fighter. She's just been asleep for a while. I looked at him. The boy I once protected was looking back at me like he was going to protect me now. I'm a lawyer now, he added quietly. Did I ever tell you that? I blinked. You? The boy who barely passed math? He smiled faintly. Life is strange. I deal with property cases, fraud, family disputes. This, he tapped the file, isn't just paper, it's power. My stomach nodded. I don't want to send anyone to jail, I whispered. Not even Aisha, not even Arman. I just want my place in my own life back. Rafi nodded. We won't start with jail. We'll start with truth and boundaries. But Appy, you have to decide something. What? Are you finally ready to let them walk on your back? He asked, eyes serious. My fingers tightened around the edge of my shawl. I thought of the rocking chair called junk, the sugar spoon snatched from my hand, the signed mortgage, the suitcase by the door. Yes, I said. The word felt new, like a door opening inside me. Rafi smiled, sad, proud. Good, he said, because what I'm about to suggest, some would call it cruel, some would call it justice. I had no idea what truth was waiting for me on the other side of his plan.
We didn't go to his house that night, or the next. Rafi took me to a small apartment he kept near his office. For late nights, he said. It was simple, clean, 2 rooms, 1 window that overlooked a noisy street of chai stalls and mechanic shops. It felt more like home than my own house had in months. The first morning, I woke up to the sound of azan flowing in from the mosque nearby. The sun had barely risen. The sky over the rooftops was pale blue, like someone had washed it too many times. Rafi was already at the table, glasses perched on his nose, my black file spread out in front of him, along with a few new papers. "What are those?" I asked, wrapping my shawl tighter around me. "Copies," he said. "Petitions, a notice of objection to any transfer or auction of your house without your consent." "My house?" I repeated softly. He nodded. "Yes, Appy, your house. I checked the transfer documents. That note from Arman, the one saying he's only holding it for you, it may not be fancy legal language, but combined with your payments, it holds weight." "So what happens now?" I asked. "Now," he said, "we talk to the bank." The next few days were a blur of waiting rooms and signatures, of stern bank managers softening after reading my story, of photocopy machines spitting out copies of my sacrifices in black and white. It turned out Aisha's loans were worse than I'd imagined. Multiple accounts, multiple defaults, credit cards used like buckets to bail water from a sinking boat, only making more holes. "She's smart," the bank manager said, tapping the file, "but careless, very risky pattern." "And Arman?" I asked. "Did he know?" "He signed here and here," the manager pointed, "but these look different." He circled a set of signatures. "We suspected forgery. Now, with your statement, we can investigate properly." I felt sick. My son's name had become a tool, used, bent. I didn't know whether to be angry at him for not paying attention or furious at her for exploiting him. Maybe both. Rafi placed a comforting hand over mine. "Appy," he said gently, "sometimes love makes people blind. You were blind to Arman's faults. He is blind to Aisha's. Now everyone is hitting walls. It hurts, but walls also stop people from falling further."
The bank agreed to temporarily freeze any action on the property while ownership was sorted out. We will send a notice to the house. They will know we are involved now. 3 days later, my phone rang. Dadu? Saad's small, shaky voice filled my ear. Why did men put a red paper on our gate? Mama is shouting. Baba is angry. They keep saying numbers. I'm scared, Dadu. When are you coming home? The world tilted. I'm coming soon, baby, I said, forcing my voice to be steady. Don't be scared. Remember what we say about monsters? He sniffed. They look big, but they're small inside. That's right, I whispered. You're braver than all of them. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands clasped so tightly my knuckles ached. This is hurting him, I told Rafi. He's just a child. We're not hurting him, Rafi said firmly. We're stopping waters from rising above his head. Oppie, if we do nothing, he loses the house, the security, the stability. At least this way there is a chance. I knew he was right. It still hurt. 2 days later, Armand called. Ami, he said, voice clipped, controlled. What have you done? I could hear chaos behind him, a pot clanging, a door slamming, Aisha's voice rising, angry. I protected my home, I replied quietly, and my grandson. Your home? He almost spat. This is my house, my loan, my family. You involved outsiders. You made us look like criminals. I took a slow breath. I involved the law, I said, because you didn't listen when I involved my heart. There was a pause. You think I don't know about the loans? He said finally, bitterness creeping in. You think I liked signing? I did it for Aisha, for her dreams, for our life. Not everyone wants to live small like you, Ami. I lived within my means, so you could live it all. Silence again. Come home, he said abruptly. We'll talk. I will come, but not alone and not to beg. Rafi went with me the next day. His presence beside me felt strange, comforting, like having a shield I never knew existed. When we reached the house, the red bank notice flapped on the gate, its corners curling in the heat. The house looked the same, the windows, the plants by the steps, but the house felt different, less like a home, more like a battleground. Inside, Aisha stood with her arms crossed tight, mascara smudged, hair messier than usual. Armand's face was drawn, eyes shadowed. Saad peeked from behind the curtain, his eyes wide. What is all this? Aisha demanded, waving a paper. Freezing the house? Objecting to sale? Claiming ownership? Are you trying to ruin us? No, I said calmly. I am trying to stop you from ruining him. I nodded toward Saad. Rafi stepped forward, placing a folder on the table. These are the documents, proving Appie's financial contribution, her beneficial ownership, and evidence of forgery in some of the loan documents. The bank is cooperating. We can go to court, or what? Aisha snapped. Or we can settle this as a family. As he laid out the conditions, my heart beat loud. I had no idea if I was doing the right thing. I only knew I was finally doing something. What came next would decide everything: where I lived, what Saad learned about loyalty, whether Armand would remain my son or become a stranger forever.
Rafi's voice was steady. Mine wasn't. The situation is simple, he said, spreading the papers like a dealer laying out cards. Right now, this house is a sinking boat. Everyone is pretending not to see the water. Armand sat on the edge of the sofa, elbows on his knees, face buried in his hands. Aisha paced behind him, like a caged animal. Saad hovered in the hallway, torn between curiosity and fear. You, Armand, Rafi continued, are legally the owner on paper, but Appie here has proof that she paid for a significant portion and that you acknowledged you were holding it for her. That gives her rights, strong rights. Aisha scoffed. She'll never go to court. She loves drama, not action. I looked at her. I went to a bank, I said quietly. I spoke to managers. I left the house you threw me out of. Don't test what else I can do now. Her eyes widened, just a fraction. Rafi went on, unbothered. You," he turned to Aisha, "have taken multiple loans, some secured against the house, some using signatures that do not match Armand's usual pattern. The bank is ready to investigate forgery. That is a criminal matter." Her face drained of color. "But we are not here," Rafi said deliberately, "to destroy anyone. At least, I'm not. Api will speak for herself." All eyes turned to me. Funny, isn't it? I had spent years feeling invisible in that house, and now, suddenly, every gaze weighed on me like a judgment. "Say something," Armand whispered. I took a deep breath. "I don't want jail," I said slowly. "I don't want headlines. I don't want my grandson visiting his parents through bars." Relief flickered across Aisha's face. "But," I continued, "I will not die in someone else's charity, not after building this life with my own hands." I pointed at the walls. These walls were bought with my broken back, my calloused hands, my widow's pension, my bangles. I will not leave them without dignity. Saad's eyes shone. I saw something in his small face then, something I thought was long gone from this family. Respect. "So here is what I want." The room held its breath. 1. The house will be transferred legally into my name, not unofficially, not later, but now. Rafi will handle the papers. You, Armand, will sign it over. Aisha exploded. "Over my dead body. This is my house, my furniture, my life. You can't just—" "It was never your house," I said softly. "You married into it, you decorated it, you used it, but you did not build it." She opened her mouth again. Rafi held up a hand. "Let her finish," he said. 2, I continued, "you will clear the bank issue with the help of Rafi and the manager, but from today, no more loans will be taken on this property, ever. If you want your luxuries, Aisha, you will earn them, not gamble with my roof." She made a sound, half laugh, half sob. "And 3, I said, the hardest part catching in my throat, "I will move out." Everyone blinked. "What?" Rafi said, startled. "Api, you don't have to." "I do," I said firmly, "not because they are sending me, because I am going by choice. I will live in the small apartment with you for now, or somewhere else later. This house," I looked around, "has too many ghosts for me now." Saad took a step forward. "Dedu, no." I smiled at him, my heart twisting. "You will stay here with your parents," I said. "This will be your inheritance one day. I will put it in trust for you with conditions. If they treat you well, if they learn, if they grow, the house stays with you. If not—" I let the words hang. Everyone understood. Karma doesn't always come in the form of punishment. Sometimes it comes as a condition. "And the loans?" Armand asked hoarsely. "You and Aisha will help repay what you can," I said. "Rafi and I will negotiate with the bank, restructure where possible. But you will learn, Armand. You will feel the weight of every rupee the way I did." He looked up at me then, truly looked, for the first time in years. "Why are you doing this, Ani?" he whispered. "After everything, why not just throw us to the wolves?" My eyes stung. "Because I am your mother," I said simply, "and a mother's justice is not the same as the world's. I want you corrected, not destroyed." I turned to Aisha. "As for you," I said, "I will not pursue criminal charges, for now. But if I hear of one more loan, one more forgery, one more risk taken with this house, I will not stop Rafi next time. Understand?" She swallowed, hard. Her bravado seemed to crack. "Yes," she muttered through gritted teeth. We spent hours signing papers, stamping, initialing. The ink pad left blue circles on my fingertips. My hand ached, but my heart felt strangely light. At one point, I paused before the final signature, the one that confirmed the arrangement. Rafi looked at me. "You okay, Api?" I studied Armand's face, the lines of worry, the shame, the boy and the man fighting in his eyes. "Armand,"
I said, pen hovering. Tell me honestly, when did I stop being your mother and start being your burden? The question hung there, raw and heavy. What he answered next would decide more than any document on the table, and his words were not what I expected.
When did I stop being your mother and start being your burden? The room went silent. The clock on the wall suddenly felt too loud. Outside, a motorcycle passed, its rumble fading into the distance. Saad stood frozen, halfway between the hallway and the living room, like a photograph of a little boy caught in the middle of his family's breaking point. Arman stared at his hands. Then, slowly, he spoke. "It wasn't one day," he said hoarsely. "It was small moments." He looked up at me, eyes rimmed with red. "The first time Aisha cried and said she felt second in my life," he continued. "The first time we fought because I sent you money instead of buying new curtains. The first time she said, 'Your mother is always in our decisions. Does she live with us or through us?'" His voice shook. "I felt pulled in two directions," he whispered, "between the woman who raised me and the woman I promised to build a life with. And instead of being strong, I chose the easy way, silence, avoidance. I thought if I said nothing, the storm would pass." His tears spilled over. "But storms don't pass when you pretend they're not there. They just flood everything quietly. One day I woke up and realized I was standing on an island I didn't recognize. You were far on one side, Aisha on the other, and I just stayed in the middle doing nothing." He wiped his face with the back of his hand. It reminded me of the little boy who used to smear chocolate across his cheeks. "You never stopped being my mother, Ammi. I stopped being your son." The pen slipped from my fingers and rolled across the table. I had imagined anger, excuses, blame. Not this. I felt old and young at the same time. Old from the years, young from the freshness of hearing my pain spoken back to me. Behind him, Aisha made a small sound. When I looked at her, the arrogance was gone. She looked tired. Her shoulders drooped. Her eyes, always sharp and lined, now seemed softer. "I was jealous," she said quietly, surprising us both, "of your history with her, of the way you spoke of her, of the sacrifices. My own mother was never like that. She left when I was 12. I learned early that love is conditional, transactional. You give me something, I stay. You stop, I go." She swallowed, staring at the floor. "When I married into this house, I saw a woman who had already given you everything, and I panicked. I thought there would be nothing left for me. So I started taking money, authority, space. I wanted to erase her from your story so I could feel like the main character." She laughed bitterly. "In the process, I became the villain." No one spoke. Saad sniffled. We all turned to him. Tears streaked his small face. "Does this mean that everyone stops being a family now?" The simplicity of his question cut deeper than any confession. I opened my arms. "Come here," I said. He ran into my hug, pressing his wet face into my chest. His little heart hammered against my ribs. I stroked his hair, inhaling the scent of baby shampoo and something else, fear. "We are still a family, beta, but sometimes, beta, even families need distance to heal." I looked at Arman and Aisha over Saad's head. "I forgive you," I said. Aisha's eyes flooded. "Just like that? After everything?" I replied, "Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering without wanting revenge. I will never forget what you both did, but I refuse to spend the last years of my life carrying hatred. My back has carried enough." I kissed Saad's forehead and gently nudged him towards his parents. "You will stay with them. I will visit. You will visit me. The door between us will be open, but I will not live where my dignity can be packed in a suitcase." Rafi slid the pen back into my hand. "Appi," he said gently. I picked it up. My hand shook, more from the weight of the moment than age. I signed the papers that gave me legal ownership of the house I had always claimed only with my heart. I signed the trust papers, putting Saad's future first. I signed the agreements that set boundaries instead of walls. When it was done, I felt lighter. On my last evening in that house, I walked through each room alone. The kitchen where I had cooked thousands of meals, the living room where my rocking chair once stood, the small balcony where I used to hang wet clothes and secret prayers. In my old bedroom, now neat and impersonal, I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the house breathe. "I'm leaving," I whispered to the walls, "but I'm not being expelled. I'm excusing myself." Rain began tapping on the window again, just like that other night. Only this time, the sound didn't feel like grief. It felt like cleansing. At the door, Saad hugged me so tightly my ribs ached. "Dadu, will Karma get Mama and Baba?" he asked, eyes wide. I smiled sadly. Karma isn't a monster that comes to punish, beta. It's more like a mirror. It shows people what they have become. Your parents are already seeing their reflection. That's why they're hurting. That's why they're changing. "Will they be good now?" he whispered. "They're trying. Trying is the first step." Rafi drove me back to the small apartment. On the way, the city lights blurred into long lines. I held my old faithful suitcase between my knees. This time, it didn't feel like a symbol of abandonment. It felt like proof that I could leave anywhere, that I could start again at any age, that I could choose myself without stopping being a mother, a grandmother, a sister. Now, sitting by the window with a cup of hot tea warming my fingers, watching the street below, I think about everything that's happened. People will say I was too soft, that I should have pressed charges, taken everything, left them to drown. Maybe they're right in their world. In mine, justice isn't always about watching others fall. Sometimes it's about learning to stand where you were once made to kneel. So here is what I have learned, my child, if you're still listening. If you give and give and give until there is nothing left of you, that is not love. That is self-erasure. If your children forget who carried them, remind them, not with screams, but with boundaries. If your own home becomes a place of humiliation, you are allowed to walk out with your head high, even if your heart is in pieces. And karma? It walks slowly. It doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it shows up as a bank notice, as a long-lost brother's phone call, as a little boy asking hard questions, as an old woman finally signing her own name on her own life. If my story touched you, if you saw your mother in me, your grandmother, or even yourself, then don't let it end here, like this. Video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to remember their worth, not for numbers, not for fame, but so that no elder, no mother, no quiet, suffering heart ever believe they are just a burden to be packed in a suitcase. We are not burdens, we are the roots, and if the tree forgets its roots, child, one day it will learn the hard way.